WSLR LPFM 96.5 in Sarasota. WSLR.org. We are streamed online, and right now, great pleasure to welcome back a good friend of mine, a good friend to this show, and a man who does a program not too far away over in Orlando from Universal Studios. It's syndicated nationwide, the Ron Seggi Show, which airs weekends, I believe, in this market, and it is definitely in this market, but all around the country. And he interviews just about everybody, and has interviewed just about everybody. We'll have to ask you if there's anybody he has left on his list to interview. Ron Seggi joining us by telephone today. How are you, Ron?
Hi, Doug. How are you? Happy Sunday.
You too, yeah. Is there anybody you have not interviewed yet, Ron?
Oh yeah. There's a lot of people I haven't interviewed. There's a lot of people I'll never get a chance to interview because they're not with us anymore, but certainly there's been a lot that I haven't. But I have to tell you that I envy you spending a Sunday afternoon playing some of those artists that you just mentioned, like Jack Jones and Bing Crosby, and that's pretty cool.
It's a lot of fun. I started doing this in college radio up in Long Island, Adelphi, a big band show, which when back then not too many college kids were interested in it, but it started to become popular again back then, and it goes through stages, as you know, but I think it's popular again, this type of music, with younger folks, right?
Well, you know, I think sometimes when people listen to music, they don't really listen to, and this is normal, this is nothing that is uncommon, they don't listen to the whole thing. I mean, even if you go back to the rock and roll songs of the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, if you listen to, let's say, like a Gene Pitney song, which isn't from the big band era, you hear French horns, you hear violins, you hear acoustic bass guitar, you hear things, if you're in the music business like I had been for so many, and still am for so many years, you hear those things. So people are always taking from what I consider the base, which is those great songs that you're playing today. That was the base of American music, pop music.
Yeah, you go back to probably around the mid-20s to about the mid-40s, maybe early 50s. That was the real golden era of writing standards. You know, a lot of them came from Broadway shows, a lot of them from films, but that 30, 40-year span right there, that's where I would say 90% of the great standards came out of that era, right?
You know, it's funny, in the Sunday paper here in the Orlando area, they go back 70 years, 70, 60, 50, right up to the current time. And it's sometimes scary to see what was a hit 40, 50 years ago when you were playing it as a disc jockey, as I was. But the other side of the coin is that songs that you had known for a long, long time, but really wasn't part of your era, but you knew them. 70 years ago, I can't even think of the name of the song right now, but it was a song that you and I and everybody listening to this broadcast remembers, and it just, that was like the basis of it. I mean, when you think about it, that's American music.
Always thought it'd be fun if you lived in that era. Imagine breaking a song like that. I used to call that term breaking a tune back in the top 40 days. Maybe the first Frank Sinatra record. That must have been a kind of a thrill, just to play that first.
It was funny because when you go back even a little bit further than that, but not much, I have a tape of Frank Sinatra back in 1935 on the Major Bowles Amateur Hour.
Really? Wow.
Like the old Star Search or American Idol. And he was part of a quartet, and he said, please vote for us because, I'm from Hoboken, and please vote for us because I need to eat tomorrow.
Right.
But what they really sold, because there wasn't the saturation of records, geez, I sound like the old man in the sea here, but what they really sold, what they determined the success, was the sheet music.
That's right, yeah.
If the sheet music sold, then it was like having a hit record or CD.
They used to have people in stores back in that era that would demonstrate songs on a piano, maybe sing them as well, just to sell the sheet music. It's kind of hard to believe now, but that's how they did it back then.
Well, I actually do remember, but I was very, very young.
That's right. I was told by my parents.
Yeah, I was told by... You told me, in fact, I think. But I was told that you could go... No, I do remember this, where you could go into a little booth, and you could listen to the record.
That's right, yeah.
And I'll kind of audition it. Although if you were in there, you heard the record anyway someplace, so it was just a way to get the free play of the song.
Well, Ron, it's been about a year since we talked to you, and I know I guess it was late summer, maybe last year, early fall we did. And you were working on, at that time, a book about your friend, and of course everybody's television friend, Ed McMahon. Any further news on that?
Well, I tell you, I'm sitting in my office at home, and I'm still working on it. And I tell you the reason why it's taken so long. And this next week, not this coming week, but next week, I'm going to be having on the show Jeff Sonseg, who is Carson's nephew, talking about this new edition of more Johnny Carson tapes that are coming out. And the reason that it's taken so long is twofold. Ed's been gone 1 year this past June.
Right.
And I have to be honest with you. I start sitting down and writing this, and it becomes very emotional. And I thought to myself, boy, if you don't get this book out, shortly after the passing, then there's going to be no interest. But I found that that's not the case. A woman I have on my show this week just wrote a book about Amanda Blake, who was Miss Kitty on Gunsmoke, and she died in 1980. No, I'm sorry, 1990. And now with this rejuvenation of these Carson tapes, it's just hard for me to write. It really is a very difficult emotional process for me. They say that writing sometimes your own autobiography is a kind of a cleansing situation, and it brings back good times and bad times. Well, that's kind of the situation with Ed. I'm still working on it. I'm still going to do it. I still got the name that we're going to use for it, and it's going to be out. It's just taken me a little bit longer to get my act together, only because of the emotions. The first year was very tough. He and I are very, very close.
Oh, sure. Yeah, for the people not aware, of course, Ron and Ed worked together on their syndicated radio shows. You produced his radio show.
That's correct.
Which aired for many years, the Lifestyle Show, which kept Ed behind a microphone as an interviewer, which I think he really enjoyed that aspect. You don't think of him as that, and you thought of him as Johnny's sidekick, but he was a good interviewer.
Well, the irony of it is that back in the early 60s, when NBC had their network, radio network, there was a show, or a series of shows called Monitor.
Right.
And had Gene Rayburn on there, and different celebrities from their television menu. And Ed did that, and he loved it. But I got to tell you what I did, Doug, and you would appreciate this. I was made responsible. I hosted and did the eulogy at his memorial, which was held at the Radio and Television Academy of Arts and Sciences in Los Angeles, which was somewhat intimidating because there was a lot of celebrities in the audience. But I was given the task by his wife to dismantle his radio studio in his home in Beverly Hills, which was very daunting, believe me. And I took his microphone and I put it in my music room, which I have in my home, and I use that microphone when I sing.
Do you? Wow.
Yeah. It's very, very sentimental, but and I won't let nobody else use it. That was Ed's microphone, and now it's my microphone.
That's nice. Great story, yeah. Yeah, it is hard to believe. Last June, I guess June 29th,
yes,
if
that's
I'm
correct.
not mistaken, that we lost Ed. But he was, as you said, he was a fighter. I mean, he was a Marine, and at the end, I know he had some health issues, but he kept plugging there, and went through some financial thing that that was public knowledge. But he never seemed to get down, at least publicly. I know you've talked to him privately, but he went through a lot at the end of his life, didn't he?
Well, I got to tell you something. I really believe that even the most successful motivational speaker, these Tony Robbins of the world, I think behind closed doors or 3 o'clock in the morning, you always have a time where you reevaluate your own domain, if you will. And I was with Ed on occasions where he was down, and he was with me on occasions when I was down. But he would never show that. I mean, he would never, ever show that. And even when he was down, it was down like, how are we going to get back up?
Right.
So it wasn't a thing like, oh, I'm lost and forever forgotten. That was not the case at all. A normal person would just say, well, I just the heck with it, I'm done. But not Ed. Not Ed. Ed was a fighter.